Hello and welcome back to my nail corner. Today we are going to be doing a jelly tip fill. So on my thumb I have already done that, and then I stopped and thought, I need to film this for you guys. I've had a lot of questions about this. When my jelly tips grow out, how do I do a fill? So this is how I do a fill. Right here you can see kind of the grow out from the edge of my cuticle to the edge of the jelly tip. There's oftentimes like a little bit of a white discoloration to a jelly tip after some filing and buffing and that sort of thing. It's just, you're kind of filing into basically, plastic, and so it does kind of get a little bit of a white to it. Doesn't bother me. If it bothers you, I'm sorry. Right there you can see some lifting around that side of the tip. That is probably the most common place that I get any lifting, is kind of not right at the center at the cuticle line, but towards the sides there as it grows out. But it's just a tiny bit, and we are going to fix it. So I have my double dip eFile out. I will put details for that down in the description box, and a 50% off discount code if you need one. This is a right there is a diamond barrel bit, which I use quite often when I'm doing my dip, but I am going to use my cone shaped, I don't know if it's technically, I think it's cone shaped is what they call them. This is a ceramic bit, and it has a really nice, not sharp tip to it. I don't know, I guess dull tip to it. It feels very much like a safety bit. And so I am using this at about, I want to say about 12,000 RPM. I did start it a little slower, as you saw, and then I sped it up because it just wasn't quite fast enough for what I wanted to do. So what I'm going to do is focus around that cuticle line. I am going to go over the entire nail surface to remove my gel top coat, because I put gel top coat over my jelly tips. If you don't do that, then you may not need to really do the entire surface of the nail. Totally up to your preference. But when I'm doing a fill, I also like to take the opportunity to kind of thin out that jelly tip. I really just want it to be like a nice overlay over my nail. So I like it to be as thin as possible because I prefer like as much of a natural feel and look as I can get. So I'm going to focus a lot on that cuticle line. I'm going to clean up any lifting that's there and just make sure I get all that product off. So I do recommend when you're doing this to use a fine grit bit, whichever kind you use, whether you want ceramic or whether you're comfortable with carbide bits or a diamond bit. Whatever you use, I recommend you use it cautiously, because you're going to be getting close to or down to your natural nail. And so anytime you're going to do that, a coarse bit is not going to be your friend, because you could damage your natural nail. So just use caution. Do your best to keep the, if you're using an angled bit like this, where it's kind of tapered towards the edge, don't dig it kind of straight down into the nail, but kind of almost glide it along the surface of the nail. That's going to help you keep from digging into your natural nail and getting what I'd refer to as a ring of fire. So if your nail is growing out and you notice kind of a red ring, or just like, dark pink, it's not like, red like the ring on that bit there, but like red like you would see on your nail. If you see a ring kind of growing out, that means you are hitting your natural nail, and that's like, you'll live, it'll grow out, but that is damage that can be caused from an eFile. So I just recommend you proceed with caution as you become more comfortable with an eFile. Use nice low speeds and fine grit. I personally would rather work a little bit longer to get the result I want, as opposed to risking damaging my natural nail. So basically what I'm doing is I'm really focusing on that cuticle line, because I want to thin out the area that's grown out. So if you've used jelly tips or any kind of enhancement like builder gel, as it grows out, you could take your fingernail and kind of feel that lip from your natural nail up to the enhancement. I want that to be smooth. I want it to feel like flush. And so that's what I'm working on right here. I want it to be a really nice smooth transition from that jelly tip grow out down to my natural nail, so that when I fill it in, it's just like I don't know, like I don't know another way to say smooth. I just want it to be a nice smooth transition, not like a lump or a hump or anything. So like I said, move slowly, pay close attention. I like to really take my time when I'm doing a fill because I don't want to see lifting, if at all possible, like through the gel that I'm going to put over top. So to explain that, if you leave any of that lifting, you know, like you saw on my middle finger there, it's kind of like white looking. If you leave that, you're going to see that through the clear fill-in that you do, which is fine. It's no big deal. In my opinion, if you have lifting and you do cover it up well, you just want to be very, very careful, because if you have moisture trapped under there, you could get a greenie, which is like, you know, fungus grown on the surface of your nail. Now it will, you know, once you take your enhancement off, you can stop that once you get the moisture out, but you will have like a green stain as your nail grows out. So nobody wants that. It's another reason why I really like having a clear overlay on my nails. There are lots of really fun builder gels and things out there, which I do like to use, but I do recommend using them more like you would for like a 2-week mani or something like that. Just kind of keep an eye on any lifted areas. When you see them, remove that overlay. But if you use that builder gel as the base for a dip powder mani and you keep it on for months and months and months, you may not notice, you know, like a moisture trappage. What's the better word for that? Anyway, underneath that, and I would hate to like remove it months later and have all kinds of like fungus or damage to my natural nail. So anyway, as you can see, like I said, I'm going to focus on that lifted area and make sure I get all of that up. After these first 2 fingers, I'm going to speed this up a little bit for the next 2 because it's just repetitive, but I wanted to keep this real time for you guys so you can see just how much I take my time, focus on that cuticle line, and how all of my e-filing goes for prepping for a fill. So after I finish e-filing, I will come back and talk you through the rest of my process. Okay, so we have e-filed and gotten rid of all that dust, and now I'm going in with my Blue Cross cuticle remover. After I did this fill, I finally remembered to get on Amazon and order some, what are they called? Cuticle oil pens. That is what I like to keep my Blue Cross cuticle remover in because it's way less messy to apply when it's in a cuticle oil pen. So I highly recommend those, and I think they're linked in my Amazon storefront down below if you need either of those products. So I go ahead and apply Blue Cross cuticle remover and then use a cuticle pusher to go ahead and gently push back the cuticle line around that nail. And then I like to use a glass cuticle pusher. I like to use that kind of pointy end and just go around gently removing any excess clear, invisible, I guess is the word that's more commonly used, invisible cuticle from the nail plate. So if you're somebody that doesn't do prep very often, you're going to get quite a bit of invisible cuticle when using these tools. That cuticle remover, the Blue Cross cuticle remover, does a fantastic job, but even though I do my nails quite frequently, I still find that it does a great job of cleaning up that nail plate. I really want to be sure that there is nothing on there, and that's really going to help in your application or longevity of application, so to really prevent lifting from happening. So I highly recommend that you do this step in prepping for any mani. This is a great step for prepping for dip powder or anything else. Now, one thing I really like about having jelly tips on is I don't really worry about this when I'm doing my dip powder manis. I just focus on prep when I'm applying my overlay of jelly tips or builder gel. And I find it really helps. So now that I have done the cuticle removal, you do want to make sure to now cleanse that surface. So whether you want to rinse with water or whatever you desire, I like to use a rubbing alcohol. And that's because it's really ideal not to be washing with water before application, because water is going to cause your nails to expand. So it's going to kind of mess with your application. So if you're going to use water, it's recommended to wait like an hour before you go ahead and do your application to allow your nail plate to dry out. So I like to use rubbing alcohol. Also, it kind of is a good dehydrating step. You can use alcohol itself as a dehydrator. I additionally will use an actual nail dehydrator. So you can use whatever ones you like. There are brands on Amazon like Mia's Secret and things like that. I actually have on hand the dehydrator from Double Dip. So that is what I like to use, but we'll get into that in just a second here. So now that I've kind of cleaned everything up, I like to go in on that free edge and just do a quick filing to clean up the shape. So oftentimes I go days and days between dip powder manis, just because if my schedule doesn't allow and I have dip powder that has popped off, then my nails will go with just jelly tips for days. That sounded funny coming out. But so what happens in that case for me is I kind of lose the sharpness of my shape, so that nice squared off tip. So before I do a fill, I like to go ahead and clean that up and get a nice sharpened shape again. And so this is all I do to achieve that. I just kind of taper the sides gently, and then I go ahead and do like a perpendicular, is that the word I'm looking for? Filing of the free edge to just get it nice and flat to my liking. You guys, I can't tell you how good it feels to do a fill-in. I really like how cleaned up everything can be. Even though I know the product underneath is like grown out significantly, it cleans it up so nicely, and I'm always excited to go in for a next mani. Sometimes I prefer the shape that my nails land at after a fill as opposed to fresh jelly tips. So now we're going in with what I told you is a bond. So they call this Double Dip set. This is from their premium liquid set, and it's called a protein bond. This is not, I think that's what it said on the jar. This is actually not what I would typically call a protein bond. This is a like a dehydrator. So this is what you're going to find on the market, probably called pH prep or dehydrator. It's kind of like a mix of alcohol and acetone from what I understand, and it's super quick evaporating off the nail surface. Now this is called their adhesive primer. This is what you would find on Amazon, Mia's Secret Extra Bond. There is also a triple D one called Ultra Bond. And so this is like what I would refer to as a gel primer or bonder. Oh, Young Nails protein bond is what they sell it as. Everybody calls it something different, which makes it confusing, but this is a gel bond, so it is specifically meant for under gel products. It is also air dry, and I like to explain it as double-sided tape for the nail. So it's going to leave a little bit of a tacky surface. You can see it's a little bit like a satin finish, but it would be tacky to the touch. So that is air dry, and once that is air dry, I go in with my gel base. Now this is the West Coast Dips gel base. I'm going to show you the difference. The one on the left is their regular gel base. The one on the right is their new HEMA-free gel base, and this was my first time trying it out. I love their regular gel liquids, so I really was looking forward to trying out the HEMA-free ones to see if I could recommend them the same enthusiastic way that I recommend their regular gels, and I sure as heck can. I love them so much, and I'll talk about the top coat in a minute here. But we are going to go in with gel base. So a lot of people that you may see do fills, they may be using builder gel, and that's totally fine if that's where you're at and you want that added strength or thickness or whatever the case may be. But one of the reasons that I really focus on filing at that cuticle line and getting a smooth transition is because I don't want to make them thicker. I like a nice thin overlay. So what I'm doing now is covering that natural nail portion and the extension with gel base, and all I'm going to do after this is gel top coat. And I'm going to have a nice smooth transition from my natural nail onto that extension. My overlay is really to protect that free edge of my nail and to give me an extension. So I'm not really concerned with having a whole bunch of product overlay on the cuticle line of my nail, because like that's not prone to breaking. I don't really need an extra layer of protection there. So as long as I have a smooth transition from my natural nail onto the extension, I'm happy. Like I don't want a lump or a bump or a weird shape, but that's why I focus on my filing. So I'm going to apply that gel base there, a nice thin layer, which like I said with West Coast Dips is really easy because their gels are just really nice and thin and smooth, but not runny. So I focus at that cuticle line, make sure I just fill in that area nicely, and then I just go nice and smooth and thin to the free edge of my nail. So I'm going to go ahead and finish applying this on the rest of my nails, which is really just one more, and then cure for 30 seconds, and then we are going to get into top coat. So I will talk to you about that in just 1 second. Okay, so I did a 30-second cure of that gel base, and now we are going in with the HEMA-free gel top coat. So same exact process as applying gel base, I'm going to apply a nice thin layer of gel top coat. And as I was saying before, I cannot say enough good things about the gels from West Coast Dips. They are a Canadian brand, so make sure you check them out online. They will be linked in the description box below. There is a 10% off discount code for first-time shoppers, but if you are not in the Facebook group, that's probably the only only one you've seen. If you're over in the Facebook group, she does have some ambassadors, affiliates, some kind of people that work on her team that have 10% off codes. So if you just kind of cruise the group, you might kind of catch one of those. So anyway, great brand. She's got some great products out there, so definitely check out West Coast Dips. But this is the HEMA-free top coat, and I was nervous about trying it because I love her regular quartz glossy top coat so much. It's so slick smooth. It's so good. So I was really kind of scared that the formula would feel different once cured with the HEMA-free gels because, you know, they're a different formula. But I am here to say that they are the bomb. So just as slick, just as smooth, just as glossy as the regular quartz gel top coat. So I highly recommend. So now that I've applied that, I am just doing a quick run around the cuticle line and the sidewalls just to make sure I don't have any excess gel there. If you happen to cure it and there's a little bit of gel on your sidewalls or whatever, you can just run a file around that, but it really is ideal to just make sure you've cleaned it up before you throw it in the lamp. And then I just hung my fingers upside down for about 10 or 15 seconds to let that gel kind of pull towards the middle to get me a nice smooth apex. So hopefully you can see here I have a completely smooth transition from the natural nail up to my enhancement. Really nice, smooth transition, perfect to dip over, and not going to catch on anything or lift in any way. So that is how I do a gel or a gel fill for my jelly tips. It's a lot of gel to say. So as per usual, I always finish off with my Candi Skincare Cuticle Oil to hydrate my cuticles and keep that skin healthy after I do any kind of work on my nails, and really all day long, every day. It's like chapstick for your fingers. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it answered a lot of questions you guys have been asking, and I will see you in my next vid. Bye now.